All right, so in the last video, we looked at how to create a new GitHub repository, and I created a repo called myFixed that lives on my desktop. And right now that folder is empty, or at least it doesn't have any visible files in it. And I have published this repository using my GitHub desktop client, and I've pushed it up to GitHub. And over here, you can see that this empty repository lives on my GitHub page. So what we're going to do now is download code from another repository and add it to the repository we just created. So I'm back on our Moodle page, and we're going to download this repository here. It says download or clone the EG broken repo. Repo is just short for a repository. And I'll just click on this, and this brings me to the GitHub page for this repository. You can see all the files and folders here. You can see the README has been converted into HTML. We've got a list of different commits, some very recently, some very old, and we have some stats in the side and some different tools. Yours will look a little bit different than mine because I'm logged in and I'm the owner of this repository. But for the most part, all you care about right now is this green button here called code. So in order to clone the repository or download it, you click on this code button, and it opens up the clone dialog. And under the HTTPS method, which is the web, you can see this is HTTPS right here, we're just going to click download zip. And when I download the zip, you can see my browser registers the download event, and wherever I've downloaded, wherever I've told my operating system to download files, that download is deposited there. I told my operating system to download all files to the desktop, which is why this is here. Yours probably goes to a downloads folder unless you've configured it otherwise. It is a good idea to clear out your downloads folder, and I make sure I send all my downloads to the desktop, and that way I never have them build up. In any case, I've downloaded this zip folder, and you can see it's a zip folder because it has a zipper on it, and it says .zip. On a Mac, you can uncompress or unzip or extract a zipped folder just by double-clicking it, and you can see it extracts it right to the same location where it was. And this is actually inaccessible, but now this has real files in it. On Windows, you have to right-click the zip folder, and you'll have an option in your context menu here that says extract or extract all, and you'll need to extract all these files to a particular location. It's really important that you extract the files before you try to interact with them, because otherwise you won't be interacting with the real files. You'll be interacting with a virtual version of them. In any case, once you've extracted or decompressed or unzipped these files, you can destroy the zip folder. You won't need that anymore. And you can open up the extracted folder, and this contains all the files that were here on the GitHub repo. So essentially we downloaded the repo, particularly the master branch of the repo, and all I need to do to bring them into the repository I just created is either select them all and drag them in, or select them all, copy them, and paste them in, or whatever method works for you to get those in there. Now, once I have transferred those files, I don't need this downloaded folder anymore, so I'm just going to send that to the trash. And now you can see my fixed repository has a bunch of new files in it. It has these two folders and an index file, a mock-up image, and a README. And when I click on my GitHub client, which I'll do now, you can see actually that all of these files have been added. It says 8 changed files. These are all the files that you see here. And there is one more. This is the DS store. And this DS store is a Mac only file, and it's completely unimportant, and you can ignore it entirely. So I'm just going to uncheck that. I don't need to commit that to my repository. And I'm going to commit all of these changes. And the way I do that is by adding a comment here under summary required. And I'm just going to call this imports the initial files. And so I added a message that will remind myself what this commit did. I could add a description, but I don't need one for something as simple as this. And I'm just going to click commit to main, and this will commit these changes to the main branch of my repository. So we'll commit that. This DS store is uncommitted. It's changed, but it hasn't been committed. So I'm just going to right click on it and discard it. Or actually, it's better if I ignore this file and add to git ignore. And now there's a git ignore file, but it's ignoring the DS store type. So I'm going to leave this as creates git ignore, and we'll commit that to main as well. And now I have two commits that I need to push to the origin remote. So these commits are local, that is, they're on my local machine, the one here in front of me, and I need to push them to the remote origin, which is the GitHub repository on github.com. So once I click push to origin, you can see we are syncing here. And now if I view this page on GitHub, I actually have all of those files, including the git ignore, here on in my myFixed repository. At this point, I can open the entire project up in Visual Studio Code by clicking this button if I've set my editor and preferences, or I could just simply drag this to my VS Code icon and open it up that way. And in VS Code, I've got my welcome pane and the files that I just created all here in the sidebar. So we're going to stop this video here for now. We've successfully added our files to our GitHub repository, and we've pushed those changes up to github.com. In the next video, we'll take a look at making an edit and committing those changes.